Okay.
This is a old 86 back, or maybe a 7.
86.
86. That's what I call myself. And I believe the last episode I was talking about the time in my life when my father bought a 40-acre farm southwest of Boise, Idaho. And it ended up that he bought it, was completely furnished with animals and stuff, especially 16 cows, milk cows. And I might have already told you, but he picked out me to take care of those 16 milk cows completely. I had to milk them and keep them clean and fed and all that kind of stuff. Farmers will know what I'm talking about. Now, if they're from the city, that's a lot of work. So anyway, when you have to get up early and go to bed late, taking care of cows and going to grade school, when I took care of the cows, I believe I'd graduated from the 4th grade in grade school up to the 5th grade in grade school. And during the process I found a book on electrical engineering, which I checked out of the school's big library of about 10 books and took it home. Well, that's what got my interest in electronics. You know, radio. Back then it was radio. And being as I wanted to, us kids, us boys' bedroom was a big garage underneath the house. It had room. It was a big garage. It had room for, it was a 2-door, and it had room for about 4 cars. So there's plenty of room to be a bedroom for 4. Well, I forget by then. I'll figure it out later on how many boys was there. And anyway, I wanted to have a radio of my own to sit by my bed and listen to music at night. So when I got this book on electrical engineering, they mentioned something about a crystal set and how simple it was to make and inexpensive. And of course they told all about it, the theory, and you know what textbooks, how they go on about something. They really talk about it. But what I did, I built me a crystal set. And the results of that was I could receive a station from Denver, Colorado, and a station from Los Angeles, California. Well, I just thought that was ordinary reception for a crystal set. But when I had to send off for a catalog from Allied Radio to get some parts, and I noticed they sent me a catalog, and they noticed that, or I noticed in the catalog that they had crystal kits to build a crystal radio. So I sent off and got it. My father was always glad to help me out money-wise for some little thing like that. Although I didn't get any, for milking the cows, I didn't get paid nothing for that. That's just family. Besides, I had boarding room and food and all that kind of stuff. Not that I really thought about it in that way when I was that young, you know. You get older and you get a little more sense. But anyway, I found out I couldn't, it was too much work for just one boy, so I talked to Pop and told him that I really needed some help. He said, okay, you can have your younger brother next to you in age to be your helper. So, oh, that was tremendous. Boy, now that made it so I could do the job, and with my helper, my younger brother, we did the job, and I'll tell you, we didn't miss a night or a morning for up until I was 18 years old. Now, I thought that's a pretty good record. So, anyway, at that time, I'd had, well, it was during that time, pretty early. It was about when I was 12 years old, I saw an ad in a magazine advertising from the School of Electrical Engineering in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it was a course on electrical engineering. Can you imagine that? Just what I was interested in. So boy, I signed up, and so that kept me even more busy. So I tell you, I didn't have a chance to make a date with a girl or nothing. My evenings and days were either milking cows or studying for school or the course. But you know what happened? I got my degree in electrical engineer a year before I got my high school diploma. Now that's what I was proud of that. Well, what the heck, it was just something to do anyway. And it kept me out of mischief, because you know, kids, how they do. That's why Pop bought the farm, because my oldest boys, we lived in town, and they didn't even come home for supper. They was out running the roads with the other gang. And so that's why I think that's why Pop bought that 40-acre farm. It was 15 miles southwest of Boise. But you know, that didn't have a thing to do to help on the bigger boys. They still didn't come home from school after work. What they did, they just started in on the streets with the gang. And but they did come dragging in around midnight, and so I guess they got enough sleep to, well, they had to get up in the morning, or else Papa took a stick to them. Go to work, you know. Well, Dad never did take a stick to any of us. He was a good father, but he was a very persuasive man. He knew how to get a little willow switch and use it on your back end. But actually, that didn't happen very often. Very, very rare. Because, well, his line of work, my father was a businessman, and I really don't know how much school he had or anything, because, well, I never asked him, I guess. That might have a lot to do with it. But what my father did for a living, he showed movies. I guess when we was in Salt Lake, before we came to Boise, he got in touch with, see, Salt Lake is the western, well, I guess the northwestern area for film distribution from Hollywood. And so he got, his movies was always the latest movies out. When a new movie came out, he got it. I guess he was pretty persuasive with the distributors. Well, anyway, getting off the subject, that's part of what he, oh, I wanted to bring that up because, and I didn't, well, I got to go out with him once in a while to help him, because where he put his movies on was in small towns. Any town that was within driving distance in the afternoon to get there, maybe 35, 40, 50, 60 miles, up in the mountains all over. And well, I really enjoyed that too, because he had the latest in projectors, nice, well, earlier on when he first getting started, the first projector he had was a big box about 8 inches thick and a foot and a half wide and maybe a foot and a half high, that had an opening in the side of it where the film, the movie came out. That's the latest, first of one he had. And that was in, when it was in Boise.
Sorry.
Before we moved, no, that was earlier than that. That was several years earlier. Sure was. Because then I saw one other model that he had, and then when he asked me to go out with him, he had 2 projectors, real nice projectors, latest thing, I guess. And he had a screen that was beaded or something, because boy, it put out a good movie. You know, bright and clear and good sound, big speakers. And the closest town was a town just north of Boise, up in the mountains. It's called Horseshoe Bend. And it was called Horseshoe Bend because the river came down, made a big horseshoe size, or not size, but shape of the valley. And it was a lumber town. And a lot of timber up in those mountains, because those mountains was what it is in. And it's called Horseshoe Bend. It was over that first range of mountains, down in the valley. And so of course during all the many times that I went out with him, I learned how to run it and got to be a pretty good projectionist, just on the times that I was there. Of course, I went quite a few times because none of the other boys would go with him. They didn't give him no help at all. So it was all right. I really enjoyed it. And that was just in the evening, and well, not all the night, but when I went out with him, we usually got home at midnight. And he would take a big box of, well, at the house he had a theater type popcorn machine. And he would pop up a big box of bagged up popcorn, and then another box of candy bars. So it was just like a regular theater. You could go down and buy popcorn and candy and watch a movie. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot of people living in places like that. Boy, and he showed most towns have a hall or a building that they call a Grange Hall, kind of well, I think they called it a Grange Hall because it was sort of an association of farmers or something like that. Or in this case, all they had in this valley was this big old sawmill. Well, it was pretty big. It put out a lot of timber or wood, and stuff. And it was big enough that it paid off because people liked movies.
Right.
They really did. And he would get almost everybody in town. So naturally, he made pretty good money. But to get down to what I was talking about, that's what my father did. Except later on, he bought a theater in this good-sized town, not a huge town or nothing, but a big-sized town, and he showed movies. This was farming country, mostly ranch, I guess, kind of ranch country.
Right.
And he what was I talking about?
You were talking about your father and
his
he had a
showing
theater.
movies. Yeah.
He had a theater.
Yeah, he bought this theater, and then he bought Mom a little building next to it, and she ran a cafe and cooked and stuff, and my father would show the movies.
Do you remember the theater name?
Well, as in Grandview, and I was too busy milking cows. But he still did that when I, the name of the town was Grandview. I think that was it.
Okay.
It was a town kind of southwest east, sort of like that. Not Eglin. There's an Air Force base out there close to that little town too. And you had to go right by the Air Force base, across this desert type out, going to it. But then it was in a pretty big valley by itself. So one time I was out getting supper at my mom's cafe, and she had to go do something, I don't know, so I guess for that one evening I was the chief bottle washer and cook. So this guy, and I knew this big guy, and he was the son of one of the ranchers and farmer.
Right.
Being as I don't know exactly the profession of all of them, some of them might have been just farming or whatever, beef raising.
Right.
That's a lot of that went on, and that'd be ranches, I guess. But anyway, this guy came in for a hamburger, and it was a big hamburger to start with, and he said, I noticed your special is just $1 more for extra patty, and I'd like one with about 3 extra patties. And no, it was, before he was through, he kept adding patties. There was 5 patties on one hamburger. Of course, by the time he got it half ate. That's when it was sticking up tammy on it. But anyway, when he got through eating, he just said, "Boy, that's the best hamburger I ever had." And he says, "How much will that be?" And I says, "That'd be $4, $5." I figured up the price of hamburgers or the meat for it at least.
Right.
And he said, "What? That much for a hamburger?" I said, "Yes, my goodness, you ate half a cow with it." And, well, he simmered down, because I knew him pretty well. I talked to him a lot, because I don't know what he did for a living, but he bummed around town an awful lot. And I guess I was bumming too. But anyway, when I was home, you know.
And what year is this?
This was when, oh dear, I'd have to compare the grade of school I was in. Now see, when you're in the, by then I was in about the fifth grade, I think. Now, what year? I've got it wrote down on a piece of paper. I figured it once on what year the different was the average time that kids go to school.
5th grade is usually.
Because see, grade school was the 8th grade, wasn't it? And let's see, when we moved on the farm, his 40 acres, when we moved on there, I was in the 5th grade. So can you figure that out in a hurry?
Let's see. About 12 or 11.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I might have been 13 or 12, 11. It was around there. But anyway, he simmered down and see, I only saw him when we went and showed the movies, but normally I didn't have to do no work, and I got acquainted with some of the kids there, so I guess that's why he simmered down and paid me the $6 and something for a hamburger. But, well, he asked for it, and that he got a good buy, because that was a big, full Thanksgiving dinner. Really, you get 6 hamburgers and eat them. Well, let's get on with the story. Okay, when he was running his circuits back when I was in the 5th grade, I went with him. No, I was older than that. I must have been about 16 or 17 when I went with him out. He had started showing movies at the Indian Reservation, and that was south of Boise, about 40, 50 miles. And it was a big layout, big reservation. And those Indians, boy, they liked those movies. You'd get a good, well, I don't know how good the Westerns are, what they like, but they liked a good movie anyway.
Yeah.
And what happened this night, when we was going home, we was about 4 miles out from the Indian Reservation, when about 6 Indians blocked the road.
Huh.
Big old bucks, I'll tell you. And they wanted some money.
Huh.
And, well, picked out some change and gave him $5 worth of change and said, okay, here's $5. That's all I got. And then he started up and left. Well, next week I went with him again, and I happened to be old enough at that time, my father thought, to have a, I think it was a 45 or a 38 pistol.
Huh.
With a side holster on the belt. And I wore that out there this next time. And when I was unloading, and I just wore that all the time. I look down there because I'm always leaving my fly open, and it's embarrassing, and I try to watch that. Oh, well, I don't know what else to do. You just gotta button it up.
Right.
Well, okay, everybody saw me. Nobody said nothing. Everybody was real nice. Except until we got ready to go getting loaded up. This guy kind of pulled me off the side and he says, he must have been some official or something.
Right.
Maybe an educated college Indian. And he was very nice. He was just as polite as a person could be. And in a kind of an apologetic voice, he says, patted me on the shoulder and says, what he was, he had something to do with, I think he was the sheriff, the Indian, the whole
Right.
layout. And he very nicely said apologetically, oh, you know, it's against the law, really against the law to pack a gun on an Indian reservation. And of course I says, well, sure, I didn't know that. And he says, well, watch it next time. So I thought that he was real nice. But there was nobody stop us.
Yeah.
We went home that time, and the road was just as clear, nobody, and we never did have any trouble. He never had any trouble after that too. I only went out there one other time, and it was for a weekend, to show 2 nights. And he got me a job to work the next day, all day. And what the job was cleaning out the restroom. They had several restrooms around on the reservation that had maybe a dozen stalls.
Right.
And I got the job of cleaning one of them up, and I took a big sign out there and put it in front of the door. Cleaning, don't enter. And, well, I was just busy down there on my hands and knees polishing up the toilet.
Right.
And I heard somebody come in. Well, my gosh, I wondered, what in the world? Nobody's supposed to come in here. So what I did, you know, I looked down. It was stalls like you see, where it's all clear underneath and open just at the top, and with doors on it and stalls like in a horse bin or something. You've all saw them. So what I did, I stuck my head down there on the floor and looked over there to see what was going on, who it was, hoping that it was a woman or a girl. And sure enough, it was a young girl. And I looked down there, and this young girl was looking at me right in the eyes. Well, I was so embarrassed, I almost bumped my head getting it out. But anyway, she left shortly after that. And that was the only interesting thing that happened that time. So we went home, and then I got back to milking cows and stuff, of course. Okay, now getting back to getting this electrical signing up for this course.
Right.
Okay, I started getting my lessons and stuff, and in one of the lessons it told about the early development and history and all that. And it told about crystal sets. And it said they was very popular. And so I sent off to Allied, because I'd got a catalog a month before, and it had crystal sets advertised. And
I think you already talked about that.
oh, did I already talk about, did I tell them how a crystal set works and put it together?
No.
Okay, I've got a little drawing knife. Didn't you see a drawing on it?
I did not.
Oh, I got it down here. Handiwork, I just reached down and did it. This here is the drawing of a crystal set. Maybe you can hold that to the right distance. It don't hurt if you're in on the picture.
Okay.
Just hold it up at the screen. Okay, there's a drawing of a crystal set. See how simple it is? At the top is an antenna. And you have, the higher the antenna and bigger, the stronger the signal comes in, the louder your crystal set will be. So what that does, you have this antenna go down to a coil, and this coil is wound on one of these. Everybody knows what this is.
Toilet paper, bro.
Can they hear me?
Yeah.
What this is a toilet paper roll where the tissue's pulled off of it. That's what I wound the coil on, and I got the copper wire for the coil by going out to the city dump and finding some little electric motor, you know, like in a vacuum cleaner or anything that's got a little motor on it. And I took the copper wire out of it, and the copper wire has to be small. You can't have it too big and you can't have it too small. And I found an old radio, and it had a little capacitor in there, fixed capacitor. They're real small, that you put across the coil after you get it wound. And you wind that on the, and of course you use glue or whatever you want. You can make a little hole on each end of the coil in the cardboard to push it through, and put a little drop of oil on there to hold all that wire on there. Because the size of the capacitor and the coil size and wire size all depends on what frequency that coil was designed for. Well, it just happens that I got those two big stations just right there, practically in the middle of it. Well, they wasn't together. They was about this far apart on the coil. And the station in Denver, well, both stations, well, you know, that's quite a ways away from Boise, Idaho.
Right.
And I could put my earphones on a nail above my bed, and you could hear that music all around that 4-car garage. not booming out, but comfortably loud. So that's the result I got to building that crystal set. But about that time, have we still got more time?
Yeah.
About that time,
This might would it be. You might want to make this your last story, so we don't go on too long.
okay, that's when I got interested, well, it was before that, when I got interested in signing up for school was I saw the ad in a magazine, some of the national magazines that people get
Right.
or buy. And I told you about the Lincoln School of Electrical Engineering. Well, I signed up, and by golly, you know, I got my diploma from Lincoln Engineering School, or my sheepskin, or whatever they wanted to call it, or dogskin. Those people up there, they know what I'm talking
Right.
about. And it was my diploma a year before I graduated from high school. And I graduated from high school when I turned 18. So I thought that was pretty good. See y'all next time.